Welcome to the first episode of Catching Up with Christians. I'm your host, Dan McCarty, alongside a dear friend and guest, Landon Hutchison. How you doing today, Landon?
Doing great, Dan. How are you?
Wonderful. I appreciate you taking the time to, hop onto the podcast today. It's the first episode, so how do you feel about being the first guest?
Hey, it's fine, man. I'll lead it off. We'll start things off with a bang. Hopefully, we'll be the biggest viewership right off the rip. But if not,
Let's do it.
maybe we can bring me back later and maybe try and get those numbers up for you.
I love it, man. That's awesome. So, what is your style today? Is it going to be really deep and philosophical, or just kind of casual?
Yeah, it's pretty casual, man. But no, man, I'm just trying to learn from you. You learn from me, and hopefully just inspire some people to get closer to Christ, and also to just maybe have some sort of stories through our testimonies and things like that that could possibly connect with them. And yeah, that's really what it's about. And we were talking about the ABCA when we saw each other again, and
Yeah.
that's what it's about. It's that fraternity that you have. And I think the same thing goes with a podcast like this. Jesus is great for all of us, and I really think it helps tie us to a lot of things. So
Absolutely, absolutely. If you wouldn't mind kind of diving in, who is Landon Hutchison? What do you do, and how have you gotten to where you are?
yeah, so a lot of people call me Coach Hutch, but that wasn't where I started. So I'm born in Columbus, Ohio. I'm a Buckeyes fan. It's pretty much like what you got to be when you're born in that area. But was born in 1992, so I'm 31 years old. Graduated from Liberty Union, which is a small school. I've made this joke a million times, but it's 100% true. Like, take your tractor to work day. It's an extremely small town, like two or three stoplights in it. And graduated in 2011. Played three sports during that time. Played baseball, basketball, and golf. Was a really good athlete in golf. Actually had some pretty legit offers during that time, but I had a much deeper connection to baseball. It's been my passion. It's given me everything, and where I am now today. And then I also showed hogs and sheep at the fair, and horses and things like that. So there's a lot of ties and things that I use those kind of times to help with my coaching today too. And then there's some other things that taught me, but then ended up getting an opportunity to play at the University of Rio Grande, which is in Rio Grande, Ohio, Southern Ohio NEI school. Played for Coach Brad Warnemont for 4 years, and coached there for 2 years prior after that. Got my master's degree in coaching leadership. Then after coaching, I decided to not become a teacher. That was what I went to school for. So that was
Okay.
another thing that prayed a lot about. And was it something that I wanted to do every single day? And I am teaching still. Technically, I'm just teaching, but that was a big change and big decision in my life, and ended up moving out to Indianapolis. And probably a month after I took this job with Pastime Tournaments, I got an opportunity to be the pitching coach at the University of Indianapolis out there as a part-time coach, and coached there for 4 years. Had a lot of success there, and ended up getting this opportunity to be the head coach here at Lake Erie, and that's where I've been ever since.
That's awesome, man. I love your coaching journey. We before we dive into that, so I just want to kind of get into how we know each other. I mean, I can break that down a little bit, but I want to hear your perspective on kind of how you feel like we've connected on that level.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, my boy Dave Steele. We were roommates in college, and man, he just kept talking about you. Like, man, you gotta be more Dan. Like, he's legit. Like, knows his stuff. Great catching guy, but just unbelievable person. A lot of things you've been through, and stuff like that, and it puts a lot of things in perspective for some people. But the one thing that really stood out to me, man, was honestly when we started following each other on Twitter, and we finally actually got a chance to meet each other, was just like your connection through Christ. And that made me want to meet you even more, honestly. And it really has, you have specifically inspired a lot of people. And that's why I'm really happy that we've built a relationship, through Dave. But he's a character. I mean, he actually was
He is, man.
calling me probably 15 minutes ago, right before we started this podcast. So I kind of hit ignore on him. So I'll have to call him back after this thing. But
Sweet.
no,
Coach Steele will be a featured guest here. We're supposed to do in the next few days as well. So tune in for that, people. But Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about you. I think one of the biggest things, right, is uh in our career, right, with coaching and things, it's um people I really get inspired by people who are really open and outwardly, you know, are showing their faith but through their career. And I know Coach Steele, our mutual friend, was a person like that himself. Like one of the first times, we started talking, he's like, "Hey man, you should come to church with me." And faith is really important to me, and being able to see someone who was a really good coach, but also be someone who is really just bold for Jesus was something really inspiring. Because personally, I'm young, but I've seen a handful of coaches in games, and you don't always see that. And so, when I saw that connection between Coach Steele, I was like, man, this is a guy I want to be around for a long time. And he started talking about, this guy, Coach Hutch, and I'm like, man, this dude kind of seems pretty cool. And we're all relatively younger in the coaching space, right? And that was the thing. Another thing too, it's you when depending on who you coach with, it's hard to connect with some of the older people on more of a personal level. Obviously, career wise, you got to do your job, so you're going to connect on the baseball side of things. But when it comes to real life situations, it's a lot easier to connect with someone who's in their late 20s, early 30s as a 21-year old than a 50, 60, 70-year old, person. So that was something really that inspired me, and it got me excited when Coach Steele was like, "Hey man, I got some people for you to connect with." So I remember one of our first couple times meeting was on the recruiting trail.
Yep.
We get to I had my Raisin Canes as always in a Red Bull, and
Yeah.
it was one of the first times we really got to just connect and really get to know each other more. And like I said, I just love that you're bold. I'm taking this thing out of my ear; it keeps falling anyway. But you're just bold about being like, "Hey, I'm a Christian. I'm a baseball coach. I'm trying to do the best for my guys, my team, and I know that Christ gives me the strength and courage to do that." And so yeah, it's been I want to say about 2.5 years since I've known you. And you're at Lake Erie College, and I'd like for you to dive in a little bit about what that journey's been like and kind of what you took over, and what are some of the goals that you have and vision for the program? Because I know personally, I've tracked you since you've been there, and I'm really excited, if not more excited than you guys are, from an outside perspective of because I just know how great a coaching staff that you have that you built there, and the guys that are hungry to turn that thing around. So, what are some things maybe you're looking to achieve in the next few seasons, as well as what kind of inspired you to take over a program that maybe needed to be completely rebuilt?
Yeah. So, a lot of it, man, honestly, probably just comes and stems from, I guess, just who I am. And I'm not someone that's going to back down from a challenge by any means. There was many people that said that probably not a good decision to try and take a position like this, at a small school. And but I'm a small town kid, like it's just that's just who I am. I guess I'm not a kid anymore, but at heart I still am, and my wife would definitely agree with that. I probably should grow up a little bit more on some things with some jokes that I crack on her and stuff like that. But regardless, I found it as an opportunity to really turn a program into something that it honestly hasn't been lacking. It's always been here. There's been tons of talent in this area forever. And it was very difficult to recruit this area when I was at UND, actually, and Rio as well. On the coaching circuit, it's weird. There's just a lot of really good schools that are playing for state championships within probably an hour and a half of here.
Mm,
And so as soon as I got here, I was like, all right, well, we have a smaller roster. Let's win this area. So just started looking for kids reaching out to programs, travel programs, high schools, things like that, and just wanted to connect and just see what they were looking for. And then with COVID, with the portal and things like that too, it made things a lot more difficult for some high school kids to maybe get some of the exposure which they were looking for.
mhm,
Same time, it wasn't too hard to say yes to this opportunity because I've always wanted to be a head coach. I think this is something that I've been meant to do. And when I
Mm,
was in like fourth or fifth grade, I mean, I wrote down that what I wanted to do for the rest of my life was teaching. So this is just who I am. It's in my root. I have that passion to help guys out, and I really do genuinely care about every single guy that I've ever coached,
mm,
that I've possibly impacted, and things like that. Because later on down the road, you just never know what something could happen. And a real good example, there was a player that is at my previous institution at UND, who was a position player, and his name was Mr. Holdsworth. He literally was a position player, and he played very little. And I'm a pitching guy. Like, and with our practice schedule, it was really weird because it was I was hired as a pitching guy. I was in the
mm,
bullpen constantly, and that's basically who I interacted with. And his older brother Macy, um, he was a guy that was a really good ball player. Ended up being the all-time doubles leader, or close to it, at
wow.
UND, and I think he got All-American votes and stuff like that. But I didn't even know who Macy was until we
Mm,
started playing games, because I didn't work with those guys, right?
gotcha.
And I just know that he had some, his brother had some, serious things going on, health wise, and but we had talked about a relationship with hunting. Like, I like to hunt and
Mm,
fish, and so did
yeah.
he. And that was kind of his way of releasing some of the maybe mental angst that he had. And then
Mm,
a few years later, I get an invitation to a wedding, and it's
that's
like
amazing. That
those
is cool.
things like mean a lot. And Macy, he extended an invitation for his wedding too. And like, you know there's only one team that gets to host a trophy at the end of the year, right?
Hmm.
And those things are extremely special. I was very fortunate enough to be able to win one myself as a player, and coach
Hmm.
for one. And we're in that to do that, right? But at the same
Absolutely.
time, those things that you do that help check those other boxes
Absolutely.
is really what honestly means more. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And
That's awesome.
the culture has shifted significantly. And one thing that we've done ever since I've been here is, I'm pretty sure it was on an episode of Hard Knocks, and it might have been the Browns, actually, kind of ironically.
Yeah.
But they were talking about their why you're
Mm,
here, why you do what you do every single day. And the first year that we did it, guys were kind of opening up about some stuff, and then I opened up about me, and it's like
mm,
45 minutes to an hour. And
yeah.
I get pretty personal about it. I want them to know pretty much everything, deep dark
Mm,
secrets, some things that not very many people know about me.
hmm.
And but I want them to know those things, because I've been through some stuff too, and I want you to understand that there's other avenues to which that you can look for. And and Christ is one of those things, right? It's actually morphed into, like, this year, like, guys have gotten really deep within their whys. But
Mm,
we actually started a Bible study once a week on campus that
that's
is
incredible.
led by one of my graduate assistants. And it's been awesome, man. I mean, there's kids from wrestling, there's kids from basketball, and it just has continuously grown since this year started. And we started it probably 2 or 3 weeks before the break started. And
Wow.
ever since then, like, guys have been, we have like a group me, and they're just posting things. And Christmas obviously was great,
Mm,
and stuff like that. So it's just morphed into those kind of things. So those are the things I'm extremely excited about for like Erie. Like, I do think that we're going to have a pretty good year this year, but
hmm.
so does every coach, right? Like, you feel
Exactly.
very confident about it.
Hmm.
But I honestly do think that we're going to have, some really big things happening this year, and, off the field too. So,
That's incredible. And I think you touched upon a few things there that I really love. I think one of the biggest things is there's a misconception personally that I feel that some people get a bad rep for when coaches are really uh, big on the outside of the baseball, off the field interactions, all these things. Like I remember in like some environments where, I'll just nag on the old school for a little bit here, just kind of it's all about winning. It's all about, getting more reps, well, you should be practicing 7 days a week, all these different things, right? And where all that's great, but the fascinating part that you touched up on there is all of us coaches want to win. You're
yes.
not in this industry if you're not competitive. Okay, you're most 99% of coaches, right? You're here to win anyway. That just comes with the title. That comes with being in sports. So I think that that should be a given. And would you agree with that? Where you're already doing it because you guys wanna help the team win a championship and those types of things. So it is okay to alter some of your energy towards, like you said, Bible studies and,
Yeah,
connecting to the players on a different level. I can't tell you how many times I've had players come up to me, as like, "Coach, you're asking me about, like, other stuff other than baseball?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because that's the relationship I wanna build with you guys." It's because if you just come up to them and be like, "Man, why aren't you performing?" Or, how's the fastball today?" Or, "How's these things?" They're gonna be like, "Okay, cool." It's transactional relationship, right? But like you
yeah,
mentioned, with connecting with those players, then you got a wedding invite. You connected, because you guys had a passion for things outside of baseball. So my personal advice to other coaches and people that are listening is like, remember that 99% of the guys on your team love baseball and are there to compete and help win a championship. There's more to it. And being a leader and a coach and a teacher, you want to connect to the people on another level than just the baseball side of things. Would you agree?
yeah. I mean, it's we're not in here to lose. I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
the thing that we everyone always says is winning cures everything, which
Mm,
is it's 100% true. You
for
can
sure.
have cancerous on kids and mindsets and things like that and tendencies when you're winning, and it
Mm,
doesn't show its face. But then when you
yep.
start losing, that's when it shows its face. And that's a testimony to a lot of coaches out there because again, no one's in anything to want to lose in life in
For sure.
general, right? So you got to have some solid anchors in your life, that no matter what your ups and downs, you have something to go back to. And why not
Absolutely.
be Jesus? So
Amen. It's fascinating that you said too is I had recently took a position at Indiana University, Purdue University, Columbus. It's a NAIA school in Indiana. I'm doing remote player development stuff for them. A lot of like catching and throwing progressions, a lot of different things like that, which is great. But I was just talking to our head coach and something fascinating. You're talking about, well, there's only one champion, right? Given, right? And all Division Two, there's gonna be one. There's gonna be conference championships. Where there's gonna be one World Series winner. And we were talking, my coach and I. He was like, "You could go 56 and like 8, make it to the NAIA World Series, the last best of three, and you lose in Game 3. What are you? A loser,
yeah,
right? Like you have that great of a year, but at the end of the day, you're still in people's minds. You lost. So it's
yeah,
like, what other ways can you measure success? What
yeah,
other ways can you measure it being worth your time and that can people grow? And that's what I love about what you're talking about is you mentioned a lot of other ways to measure your success as a program as well as measure your relationships with your players other than just, on field success, which is pretty inspiring.
yeah.
Um,
Chansey was the one of those kids that was inviting me to the wedding and stuff. And
yeah.
but my big thing, man, is like, even when I go out recruiting now, like when I go out to Indy, like I go see my former players, and I go see
Mm,
Batesy, I go see Whitty, I go see Warner, I go see a lot of these guys, Mook, like all these guys that like I helped impact their life. But whenever I'm in
mm.
town, they like see me on Snapchat, like, "Hutch, you're in town? What the heck, man? Why aren't you coming out here to come
That's
see me?" And
awesome.
I'm like, "Well, I might be able to, but it's probably not going to be till 9 o'clock because I'm going to be at this field for
For
till
sure.
whatever." But you always try and make time, man. Like even if it's a
Mhm.
phone call, like those little things matter. And sometimes it's just as much as not only reaching out to people, but it's picking up the phone too.
Mm,
And and reading people's faces. Like that's why I thought COVID really screwed up people's minds, man, was because you had masks on. And when you had a mask on,
mhm.
like you don't know, like you can't tell if I'm mad or happy or anything. All you can see is my
Absolutely.
eyes. Like seeing a smile, like having a laugh, like those things just kind of got lost a little bit. And these
For
things
sure.
don't help either. Like these cell phones,
Yeah.
they don't help.
Yeah.
That guys, like that's why we make people talk about their whys. Like we physically make
Mm,
them talk in front of our guys because they're so used to just texting, and it
mm.
really needs to be a part of like their daily routines as well, just to help with their mindset. So
Absolutely. So we'll shift into a little of the faith aspect here. How would you say you are a Christian,
mhm.
and we can get into your journey in your faith here in a minute, but how would you say your faith has impacted maybe your coaching style or your reason of coaching or maybe altered some of your beliefs? over time. I know personally, like, the closer I got with God over years, the more my mindset shifted in different styles, coaching styles, and my thoughts and the things that I valued from a player tended to alter a little bit, versus when I was a little more early on in my faith journey. So how would
Yeah.
you say personally what it's affected your coaching style or
I
coaching?
would say that when I first started coaching and stuff like that, and as I continued to get closer, with Christ, it honestly has allowed me to read the room a little bit more. I
Mm,
would jump to conclusions so much more earlier in my career. And, a lot of times, like, people act out because of something going on and you don't know what that is. So you
absolutely.
probably need to hear there's always two sides of the story. They always say that, right? And, at the beginning of my career, like, I would always be like, he doesn't care, or this guy just, he doesn't get it, or,
Mm,
he's not a team guy, or, whatever that it is. And if a lot of things start stacking up and it starts showing that that is actually true, okay, well, then that's who that person is. But more times than not, there's something going on behind the scenes that we just don't quite know about. And we
mm,
need to know about that person a little bit more, have a door open. They come in, there's guys that come in once a week, right? And
mm,
we just talk. And it's about anything. It could be literally whatever
mm,
about what it needs to be. But some of the things that I've done too is I've suggested books for people. Some of them are religious based books. Some of them
mhm.
definitely not religious based books. Like Greenlight is definitely not
Yeah,
a religious based book by Matthew McConaughey.
yeah.
Like, man, that book is so powerful because there's just so many things that he went through, and he goes
Mm,
into such detail about it, and he just talks about taking moments that what you feel like is probably the lowest point in your life, or a red
mm,
light moment, and then it actually turns out being a green light moment because you learn so much from that. And
mm,
that's like, we talked about, like, so the places that I, attend and, go to church or have went to church and stuff like that. And, I was talking about Mount Carmel and Batavia, which is literally the opposite side of Ohio. But I felt like every time I went to go listen to Dee speak, it was literally what I needed. And it's
mm.
just, it's not a coincidence when it keeps happening.
No,
And,
not at all.
it's meant to
Yeah,
be, right?
absolutely.
So those little messages are something. And, before every single game, I bow my head and I pray and I say,
Mm,
say hello to some of my, former family members, that are up there, and, ask them how they're doing, maybe crack
mm.
a joke here or there and just have a nice
Yeah.
little smile, and, let them know to, like, watch out for our guys and stuff like that. And, all those things are extremely important. And we do have a lot of, guys on the team that are, Christian. We have some, that are not, and that's cool. That's,
Mhm. Absolutely.
your decision, and all those things. But I just want them to know that I'm there for them, and if they ever need anyone
Mm.
to talk to, that it's not just me. It is them too.
That's awesome. You know, I personally, I want to know your perspective on this. This is me opening up. I personally felt sometimes it was hard being a full time college coach and still keeping your faith first. Um, me being a recruiting coordinator, right? I remember one summer, 2 summers ago, I went to 132 games, okay, and a summer, and I don't know if that's a lot compared to a lot of people. I don't know, but that was a lot for me, okay,
That's a lot.
and
That is a
that was
lot.
a lot of games. Like I grinded that summer,
Yeah.
and I had a great time, but you know it, really trying to pray every day and I would pray every day, I always have, but spending time with God, right? Having that intimate time of just trying to grow in your faith, that was something that was really tough for me in the full-time coaching world because I think there's a lot of people don't realize, and maybe you want to touch up on how you continue to put your faith first, or if there's times maybe you feel like you have grown in that area as well. But I know personally, like, it was difficult, and um, not only that, I just feel like it's a people don't understand, like, this is not a typical 9 to 5. So you're not practicing twice a week and, rolling out the lineup card on a doubleheader one weekend just to get things going. Like, no, this is 10, 11 months out of the year, you're going million miles per hour, right? So,
Yeah. Living
in your
on Raising
personal opinion
Cane's, living on Raising Cane's, energy drinks, and
yes,
caffeine, right? Like, that's
literally.
pretty much
So
it.
you encapsulated it right there, but how in your life have you been able to maybe balance your faith and keep it at the forefront through being a full-time college baseball coach?
Yeah, so that was actually something that I was trying to really figure out when I was at UND because it's been easier now that I just have one full time job. But when I was at
Yeah.
UND, I was working, baseball tournaments and then coaching at the same time. So I have to
Mm.
recruit and I got to make sure that the rain's happening and make sure this parent's happy. Like it was a lot, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, it was really hard. Like I hadn't been to church in a long time, and
Mhm.
it was kind of wearing on me, and I didn't know what, why, and things like that. And it wasn't. I didn't know if it was church or if it was just like
Mm.
stress or what. But it's like you need that release, right? And something that maybe other people that is listening to this, extremely easy. Just download the Bible app. Every morning
Mhm.
it gives you a testimony. It's a sentence. It's a paragraph. Whatever
Yep.
that it is, and it can connect with you. And if it's something that you feel that maybe connects with your team for the coaches out there too, share that message, and then maybe have
Mm.
someone speak on it right before you start practice, and like how it maybe tied into something previous, or whatnot. But that at least helps at least get my start of the day.
Mm.
I'll have my coffee and read the passage for the day, whatever it is, and then I'll maybe read into the chapter, actually open up the Bible and read into it, highlight it, and maybe do some self reflection on it, and then do my own individual prayer. I try and read it's the I'm second version of the
Mm.
365 days, which those are great too, because not only are you reading certain passages of the Bible, but then there's always like little statements at the end that you're
Mm.
supposed to help live your day by. And those are a couple ways that has really helped me connect. And, I have been really trying to, dive, deeper into that. And I've actually been doing a lot more individual self reflection myself. Like, I feel like that, I was not at the weight that I wanted to be at. So I've changed my diet and I'm starting to exercise a little bit more because I was exercising literally zero. Because you're talking about like, your time commitment. Like,
For
I'm
sure.
trying to make sure that I commit as much time to my guys as possible,
Yeah.
and maybe sacrifice my own health, for them, to be completely honest. And
Yeah.
it's time for me to be a little bit more selfish about
For sure.
myself and make sure that I am in good health, because I do have a boy on the way, and those things are
Congrats,
really,
man.
really big for me. So
That's awesome. No, I mean, first off, congrats. That's really
thank you.
exciting. And have you all decided on a name yet, or still kind of?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have. Yeah, yep.
That's awesome, man. Like looking forward to it, and you better be spoiling it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
his
he-
his room's literally on the other side of this wall, and it's packed with clothes that people have
oh, I'm
forgotten,
sure
and stuff like that. And
he's a
it
lefty,
was
right?
I well, yeah, we're gonna tape his right arm behind his back.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but no, man, what was really cool about that moment too is like we did the reveal, like the gender reveal, and
Hmm.
um, when I first told the guys, like I was nervous. I mean, like I was
Mm.
extremely nervous because we're at the due date's April 17th, so that's in the middle of the season. But
Yeah.
Dan, dude, we've prayed. My wife and I have prayed hard for this opportunity, and
Mm.
it really, really is great that we're able to, have a child, because we've been trying for years, and
Mm.
it's been awesome. But in general, like when we told them, like their excitement was like it was real, like
Oh,
they were
that's
like,
awesome.
"Let's go," and they were cracking some jokes and stuff like that too.
That's amazing.
But then like when we did the reveal, yeah, we were like looking the opposite way, and then we turned around and they were all wearing blue shirts, and it was just that part was
That's
cool,
so cool, and
so
that's
but they all
incredible.
like, said congrats, and my wife was bawling her eyes out and stuff like that. But it's like that's why that you get into coaching. Like I
Absolutely.
try and be there for them, and they're there for me. And I told them, I was like, listen, fellas, like I might be in Cincinnati, or we might be in Cincinnati playing, and if I get the phone call, like I gotta go.
Peace.
Like
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know,
yeah.
Mike's got it. Coach Ebersill's got it.
Yeah, he does. He already told us, like, I got you. I'm like, oh, you do for sure.
I know he's ready. He's ready. He's locked in. No, but
That's
that's
right.
so amazing. But I think that's a testament to the culture that you guys have created, right?
Yeah.
And you have shown the value beyond baseball. And I think that is so amazing to see because, you know, when you're really guys, I mean everybody, young adults are so you're still being formed, right? When you're 18 to 22, 23 years old. And when you're around people that are showing you love and being appreciative and practicing gratitude and a lot of things that I know that your culture at Lake Erie, practices, that really shows, the guys of your values and what you want to instill in them. And because you've instilled those values, that's how you got the reaction, right? Like you were able
Mhm.
to, it just shows what you've done in the last couple of years that they care about you more than just, hope it's wins and losses today. And that's pretty awesome. And that's gonna be amazing. I know you got a great support system, and that is such an exciting part of life. And like you said, you got to tape the hand behind the back, and it's gonna be a lefty. It's already got the pitching genes. You pitched already, so now
That's
it's time
true.
to be a lefty. So
That's right.
that,
That's right.
but that's
As long
awesome.
as we're hitting left-handed, that's cool. But
That's too
honestly, too, like doesn't even like I don't care if he plays baseball, man. Like I just want
a healthy
little
boy,
one
right?
and yeah, just run around, doing whatever. Like
Yeah,
that's it. That's all you could ever ask for. So
absolutely. I want to like just dive a little deeper in the coaching space, right? Because um the coaching it's a fascinating field, and as a Christian, we're called to be bold, right? And be um how do I word it? Just be unashamed, right? Like one of my favorite Bible verses, Romans 1:16, talks about being unashamed of the gospel, right? And to me, being unashamed is not being timid to tell people that you're a Christian and live out those ways. But on the counter side of this, I could probably get some backlash for this, but you also want to keep your job, right? And
yeah,
what I mean by that is there's a lot of institutions and a lot of places where you have to be kind of careful what you say. But what I always tell people to that is that people aren't being timid about their faith by wanting to keep their job. You could still show people who Jesus is by the way you act, by the way that you pray before a game or whatever, or you're reading your Bible verses. I had personally, this is just a story for me. Last year, I had a journey. I wanted to read the Bible every single day last year, and I did it. I read 365 days in a row, which was really a big thing for me. But I remember I was coaching in the Coastal Plains League, and games would be so late. We're cleaning out the locker room, all that traveling, and at like 11:50, I'd have to pull out my phone. And at first, guys would be like, "Bro, that's whack. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can do that later. Like, the people don't really know what time it is when you do this." But I knew for me personally, like that was what it was about. It was about this journey. And by the end of it, guys were like, "Man, you're dedicated to this thing. Let me figure it all out. Let me do the deep dive and who Jesus is and what this faith is. Because if you're so committed to that, like I want to see what this is all about, right?" So
yeah,
although I wasn't shoving Jesus down their throats, I still was able to just live by my actions and show that that's how I personally would show my guys that I was a Christian and those types of things. And if they had conversations, we would talk about that. But for you, um, is that do you ever wrestle with that as far as like being a coach and being maybe afraid that you might be too outward about your faith, or is your institution kind of you know what I'm saying by that about that
yeah.
at all,
I do
or
for
is
sure, and I haven't really ever felt pressured
mm,
in any way at the institution I'm at currently. Which has been great. Have I had some maybe self like should I wear my
mm,
cross? Should it be
yeah,
underneath my shirt? Like should it be out? Like, but
yeah,
honestly, like it really doesn't matter. Like I don't care what religion that you
yep,
choose to follow. Like we all are, doing things that we feel that's best, for us.
for sure,
And, I definitely don't shove my religion, in people's faces. And it's just like, honestly, like whatever, if you're, straight or, things like that too, like, that's your preference, like
yep,
that's just who you are. And if that's great, but like, I don't want you shoving that in my face either, that kind of thing. Right.
mm,
Like, it's more of a respect thing,
for
and
sure,
it's just like holding the door open for someone. It's just what you do, right? Like if
yep,
that's how you were brought up and
mm,
things like that. Like those are just things that kind of just go with you. So no, I've never felt pressured in those situations. I do feel like that people do feel uncomfortable for sure, like
Mm,
sharing their religion and stuff like that. But I do feel like it's honestly became much more open, and
mm,
I'm a Buckeye fan and stuff like that, but like watching CJ Stroud and Marvin Harrison talk about their faith is it
absolutely.
just and that's what CJ said. I think this was in an interview like a week ago, and one of the people asked why do you always wear a shirt that has something
Hmm.
with faith based on it, or a passage or anything. He said, "This is my platform, and I want to, share what he's done for me, and this is the time
Mm,
that I feel like it's best to do it." And
that's
every
awesome.
time that he's interviewed, he always, says, "My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ." I want to thank him first,
Yeah,
and it's not because he's trying to make a front. It's because he's honest about it, and he knows that he
sincere.
literally would not have any of the talent that he didn't have without him. So
That's great. So let's dive in a little bit. So we just we're just saw each other. What was that, last week or the week before, or a week and a half
yep,
ago now? At ABCA, which ABCA is American Baseball Coaches Association. They hold a big convention every year. I believe there's over 8,000 coaches there this year,
yep.
which is really amazing. But talk a little bit about your experience at the convention, and obviously it was great catching up with you. We were able to talk about this opportunity now, right? Being able to schedule this, and but talk about how impactful ABCA has been on maybe you and your career, and why you look forward to going every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a massive networking event. But the main thing that I found is, I mean, a lot of things are kind of being, I don't want to say like regurgitated in certain ways or whatever, but what it does do is it really sharpens you and it gets you re energized, man. I mean, you just like, you go to some of these speakers and it's like, man, like it's just said just a little bit different and it just connects with you a little
Mm,
bit more. It gets to, excuse me, a little bit of a deeper vibe. But at the same time, like it's just really cool just getting to meet all these different coaches, and it just it does keep growing. I mean, every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I mean, I actually think there was like 11,000 people there at one point
really?
because I think that was the number that I heard, and I would not be
Wow.
shocked because there. I think it was like the second day. I mean, you couldn't move in the convention
No,
center. I mean,
I
it was
brought the wrong
crazy.
wheelchair. I was getting pushed around. I should have brought the big one up.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and it's the first one I ever went to. Actually, was it was crazy. Like I got the job in Indianapolis, and it was actually
Mm,
in Indy, so that was
yeah.
cool. Like it being there, and I learned a ton. I mean, it was like I had FOMO though. Man, I was just fear of missing out on everything.
Yep.
Like I couldn't miss a speaker. I was like, man, how am I going to go to this, or whatever? And they do a good job of having the videos afterwards, so you can like
Yep.
rewatch them and learn about those things. But it's all about the networking. And what I mean
Mm.
is like, obviously meeting you, I literally went back into the convention center to try and find you. Not even kidding. I was like, I
That's
know it's
cool.
about to close. I got to go back in there. I got to see my boy Dan. Like, I got to
I
say bye to
appreciate
him
it.
because I was about to fly out.
Hmm.
And, but it's just like, there's certain people that you want to see every single year,
Yep.
catch up with them, see how things are going. You want to see them in person. It's nice talking on the phone with you and stuff like that.
For
But like,
sure.
you just
Way
always
different in
want
person.
to see guys, right? And little things like that. But it's just you just learn so much from different guys. And
Mhm.
I mean, I met like 6 or 7 brand new coaches, and
Oh,
it's
that's
going to
awesome.
help possibly with like recruiting. But
Mhm.
you just hear or see different like ways that they approach their and maybe their practice planning,
Yep.
or how they develop certain things, or what things that are typical flaws. But one thing I do know is everyone goes through the same things. Everyone thinks that their
Yep.
team is they can't field a PFP. Everyone think it's just it's they
Yeah.
always complain about the same stuff, right? Like we have the
Yep.
dumbest kids, blah blah. Blah. We have the smartest
Yeah, we
kids,
don't have a good hitting approach. Our guys are, yeah, absolutely.
It's all the same everywhere. But
Yeah.
it's just that's baseball, man. Our game's hard, and
I love how you mentioned something though, and this is a pretty bold take, and I've talked to the people about this a couple times, and some people agree, some people don't. But I love how you said a lot of it now is like a lot of people they're regurgitating, some of the same information. I believe that a lot of coaches, we're all talking about the same thing. We just use different lingo or, see it a minor adjustment way. But I try to, as a coach, that's why I love these speakers, is yeah, we might understand like the concept. We might agree and we might have our own style of doing it. But at the end of the day, our goal as coaches is trying to figure out a way to pick up maybe a one example that we could use to one of our players so they can understand what we're trying to say. Or
Yep.
so I agree with you that a lot of that information is it's retold, but at the end of the day, if one person's style of telling you something or their speech can help you just reach one kid, that to me is worth it, right?
I think it's more about like you have so many different kids that learn so many different ways now. You just don't know quite how to connect with that person. And
Mm,
then you're at that speaker, and then all of a sudden it's like, I need
yeah,
this, I got to send this thing to this person because that guy has
yep,
been needing this. And then they're like, Coach, yes, you're right, right?
yes,
And
yeah,
that's where that FOMO kicks in because you're like, man, like he's right there. If he just do this
yep,
little thing, but like I say this and it doesn't work. And then you
mm,
hear someone, it's basically the exact same thing. There's just a little bit of a different script or a different
spin,
feel
yep,
or cue or whatever. And when it works, it's great. And that's why too, like, I'm a pitching guy, but I still,
mm,
work with the hitters as well. And I want my hitting guy to talk at least with the pitchers too, right? Like,
yep,
because there's certain things that he sees as a hitter's perspective and vice
hmm,
versa. There's certain things that I see on the pitching's perspective
yep,
that I'm going to attack and or like that I'm visually seeing in body language or whatever that it is. And we're just like we're really hitting positive self-talk a lot. And like I don't like using the word positive because I like more neutral thoughts, but at the
mm,
same time, like if you can just change the verbiage of what you're trying to say, it can mean all the difference. So purple today when we were inter squatting, one of my pitchers, he landed and he said, I'm flying open. Verbatim what he said. As soon as he finished his out or whatever that it was, he came out of the cage and I brought him over and I said, listen, this is what you said. Okay. You said, I'm flying open. Does that sound positive or negative? And he's like, I mean, it sounds, kind of negative. I was like, well, are you a competitor? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, if you're a competitor, then tell yourself to stay closed. Like, come on, man, stay closed. You're better than that. Like,
mm,
how much different does that sound
hmm,
than, oh, man, like stop flying open kind
like a
of a
pick
thing,
me up,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
it's you're literally reverse psychologing your own
yeah,
self,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And he's like, man, like okay, that makes sense. And he had a better second inning. I mean, he had a really good
mm,
first inning. He went 3 up, 3 down, 3 Ks. So like hard to beat that. But
yeah,
it was like even when he was having that much success, he was still
mhm,
nitpicking because he flew open one time. Like,
yeah,
rather than just like, man, you're better than that. Let's go, like stay close. So that was just something that I picked up, from Zach Sorensen,
okay,
who is a mental coach for the Atlanta Braves.
hmm,
His one of our former players, who's an assistant for me, that's his uncle. So
oh
he
wow,
talks about him all the time. Yeah, and that's Mitch, and Mitch has been awesome for
that's
us.
amazing.
So
Really just breaks down the value or kind of how invaluable that ABCA is, right? Like how or how amazing it is as a convention and the amount of people it brings together. I really love that. It's kind of like a thing, kind of like faith. It's like come as you are. There's not really a pretentious like a maybe pretentious is not the right word, but it's not whether you're a travel ball coach or coach in the big leagues. There's an acceptance, right? There's a people where 99% of the people are fine with you coming up to them and just talking the game, and personally, I try to be very open and approachable. I've had people from you know travel ball organizations and facilities coming up with me and talking catching, and I try to be an outlet for these people to drop some knowledge. But the one thing I love about it is there isn't that like timid, like, "Oh, I can't go talk to that person because that person's with the Braves," or, "Oh, I can't go talk to that person because that person coaches at, Mississippi State," or whatever, right? It's kind of like a thing, just be a good person, and if you're not transactional, they'll be cool with talking to you and giving you the sauce and right, and,
yeah,
this made me laugh. I'm buddies with Zan Barksdale, and he's a catching guy.
yep,
And he
I know.
goes, him and I were talking at dinner one night. He's like, "You know what's so amazing about this?" And I was like, "He's like, just talks about the baseball community, how cool we are, just having presentations about talking about different styles and philosophies and different things." He's like, "There's no offensive coordinator conference, in football, like where they're just sharing playbooks and stuff, right? But
Yeah,
you'll have people, obviously they're hiding some things, but at the end of the day, majority of it's like information that they really use,
yeah,
and that they live by. And I think that is really cool about the baseball community in general is that openness and the being approachable and willingness to share the thoughts. And because I know I spoke to so many people and people from
Yeah,
different organizations, and just being able to learn is really awesome. So ABCA is a great event. Shout out to them. It's been I've been going for about 7 years, which has been really great. I went when I was younger with my dad. My dad's always had a booth, so he'd be working the booth, and I'd go to all the youth clinics and stuff growing up. Um, but it's a great event, and I look forward to next year, obviously, to see the coaching buddies, but as well as just learning. You can just never stop learning.
yeah,
And yeah, so that's pretty cool about ABCA. And then just kind of getting on a little more of a personal level. What are some of your hobbies outside of coaching and baseball? Is there, I know you mentioned a little like hunting and fishing, but are you a video game guy? You like to go run on the treadmill? Like, what are some of your hobbies outside of coaching and baseball?
yeah. So I definitely play some video games, like for sure, but for the most part, like I like to. It sounds like crazy, but I just honestly do things that don't really revolve around baseball, like
Yeah.
going on walks, finding ways to just clear your head.
Mm.
I know that right now, like it's a little cold up here in Cleveland, but like we live right close to the lake. I mean, we're
Mm.
3 streets away from it, and when you just drive in the summertime and you just see the lake, just seeing the water, man, it just clears your head,
Mm.
and stuff like that. Like doing some like self meditation and stuff like that has been really big for me. Um, Definitely been starting to read more, and I'm not a reader. Like I've never been a fan of just like reading books, but I've
Mm.
really started dedicating time to that, and it's helped me a ton. It takes me a really long time to read because when I read something, I read over it like 2 or 3 times because I really want to
Yep.
understand it. So
Me
that's why
too.
like I really like audiobooks because audiobooks like I hear it, I can read it too as it's
Mhm.
going, and then I can play it back and hear it again. It's like, man, like that was big. Like
Mhm.
those kind of things have really been good. Love watching sports. Like I'm going to pretty much any sporting event that you can think of. Like my wife hates when we go to baseball games, like MLB games. Like we'll go to Cleveland, and
Yeah.
so I'll be like calling out what's going to happen. I'm like, all right, he's going to steal, and then literally he
Yeah,
steals,
I do
right?
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
1-2 slider, here it comes, and then slider in the dirt, swings over the top of it.
No, it's so true. Like, I've done that, like, on a date before too. I took a girl to a game one time, and, like, she'd just be like, "How do you know that?" Or, like, "Can you just stop, like, and watch the game?" I'm like, "No, when you know it, you know it, you know?" And
um,
y y
Other hobbies, I guess, would be calling Dave. I mean, Steele and I, we talk to each other all the time, and
Yes.
former friends, trying to meet with them.
Yep.
But I've really tried to do a much better job too, because I talk about a lot how important family is. But
Mm.
ever since that Taylor and I have found out that we're having a kid, I've really been trying to dedicate more time to her,
Mm.
and I feel it's extremely important because as you go through life, like you only get to live one life, right? So
Mhm.
let's make sure that we're spending time with those who help us and friendly and stuff like that. So during like the holidays and stuff, it's about family time, and like this year was kind of weird. Like we bought my nieces like actual like games, like card games and stuff,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
we're like playing with them. Like they're just old enough now where they kind of understand it.
Mhm.
But my sister like thanked us because of how much we connected over just
Mm.
playing games. And I was playing with my nieces and stuff too, and they were like kind of talking crap a little bit, which was kind of funny because like
Yeah.
some of them don't talk, and then all of a sudden they're like, Landon, I was really trying to beat you, just so you know. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, and I was trying to beat you too. I'm not gonna let you win. Like that's not who
Yeah,
I am.
exactly.
So things like that. But I'll always be in sports for sure. But like those little things have definitely started to really rise up more for sure. But no, I love some self reflection time. But I guess another hobby would be recruiting. Like I'm constantly on the
Yes.
phone, so those things
So
too.
fun. That's one of my favorite things, and the one thing I miss, man, because I viewed it as competition. You're
Yeah,
selling,
that's
you're
right.
just trying to get the next guy, and I love the recruiting aspect and the relationships you genuinely build.
Yeah.
real relationships with these people and their families.
Yes.
And, you know, it would be this is people might tease me about this, but I would have a tough time sometimes. You bring in a guy, you figure out how cool they're, and when they're not end up like what you think they were, or they don't become like a dude for you, or they just not, everybody's a piece of the puzzle. But if they weren't the puzzle that they thought they were gonna be, and maybe you thought too, like that made me a little sad at some points because I'm
Mhm.
like, man, like that stinks because they're a human being, and
Yeah.
that was a tough thing for me being the recruiting coordinator. Honestly, it was like, man, you're really helping or really hoping that that kid achieves what he wants to achieve because one, it'll help you, but two, more importantly, you genuinely care about that individual and that family. So,
Yeah.
um, but overall, I love recruiting and I love the relationships that you build on that end. And then, you know, one thing that kind of came to my mind too when you mentioned some of your hobbies and some things that I tried to do too is just kind of mindlessly do some things, right? When you're always go, 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 one thing that why I do enjoy video games is just like you're kind of just sitting there and vegging. Like if you're working all day and you're whatever, you're just it's mindless, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think that obviously you gotta challenge your mind sometimes, but when you have a high stress job like coaching can be, and when I mean stress, I don't mean necessarily like, there's a gun to your head, but it is a stressful job, right?
Hmm.
At points in time. So I would always try to find things that you can just kind of mindlessly do, and
Yeah. No, I
in different
mean,
points in
Mike
time.
and I will be playing Fortnite, or we'll get. I didn't buy the new Call of Duty, but that
Yeah.
was like one of the go tos. But I was always a big Halo guy, and people don't play
Okay.
Halo anymore, and that's
Nope.
kind of depressing to me. But no, we'll play Fortnite, and it's just fun, just like talking crap towards each other. Like, dude, like, hey, why do you
Yeah.
keep getting knocked down? Steele's one of those
Yeah.
guys for sure too, and I can't wait
For
to show
sure.
him this clip because he knows that he's one of those guys that gets knocked down all the time.
That's awesome. Yes. Yeah, we played Ford a couple times. I haven't played it a lot recently. I've been playing a lot of Rocket League lately. That's been my
There you
game
go.
lately, and
Okay.
it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But obviously with a lot of things I got going on, haven't been gaming as much as I used to, and
Yeah.
I guess
Same.
that's the part of growing up, right? And yeah, so the last two things I love to follow up with is just kind of if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing your testimony or your journey in faith and kind of how you got to where you are in your faith. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, Some people like we talked about briefly at the beginning. Some people it's a dramatic story, and then some people it's just a walk of life and God came to them in a different way. So if you wouldn't mind kind of diving into that and how you became where you are in your faith.
Yeah. So when I was actually in college, um, I believe I was coaching at this time. I had actually two friends, but one friend, um, I believe it was in October. It was either September or October. I know they're real close to each other, within a month of each other. That his father had passed away when we were in high school, and it was really hard on him. And every year during that time, like he got really depressed, and he was same as Ryan, and he went to Otterbein, and he was a played golf, and I played golf too, and he was young, and he was in FFA just like I was. And I'll tell a little story to kind of preface this. But we were at the National FFA convention in Indianapolis, because that's where it is every single year, and they have a thing called the Buckeye Bash. And the Buckeye Bash is literally all the chapters in Ohio go to this Marriott hotel, and it's just like a
Mm,
giant party. You get to mingle with people from all across the state, and things like that. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and I told her, I said, listen, like, I'm going to help my boy out, Ryan. And I'm going to introduce him to, some girls or whatever. I'm going to teach him how to talk to girls, because he was extremely shy. He was always embarrassed,
mhm.
those kind of things. Right. And she's like, oh, okay, whatever. Right. And I'm just like, I don't know if you've watched How I Met Your Mother, but it's like, have you met Ryan? Like that
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
this was
yeah.
before I even knew How I Met Your Mother was a thing. That's basically what I did. And he ended up, talking with this girl, and they ended up dancing there, having fun. And he didn't know how to dance. And I was,
Mm,
showing him like, hey, this is what you do, whatever. And ended up opening up a lot more. And just like we had a great time, so on and so forth. Well, um, you know, I think it was like 4 or 5 years after his father had passed. he decided to take his own life, and that was hard. And during the funeral, there were so many different people that talked about that story, and it was like, I can't believe that me just being myself, honestly, and just trying to like get him to mingle with different people and dance and whatever was just like helped impact his life as much
Mm.
as possible. And that word impact has been really big for me. And we talk about that. And then another friend of mine a month later, committed suicide as well. And he was in my grade. His name was Sam. And he had some severe depression and just decided that, life was, not for him anymore. And that's why we talk about our whys. And that's some of the things that I express. But, during that time, I definitely got significantly closer, to God. And I started, praying more and, started really connecting things and, really understanding like what is most important. And life is extremely important. You just never know what's going to happen, and you never know who, could be impacted, during those times of what's going on. And, nothing is too crazy in life where you feel like that you have to take your own life. So
Mm.
make sure you're reaching out to people, actually reading people's, faces. And
Mm.
if there is something that seems off, like don't just blow it off,
Mm.
those kind of things. So that was probably the biggest moment in my life to where that I felt like I really needed to get closer, to Jesus. And, it's honestly been who has made who I am now.
Sometimes tragic moments like get a hold of us, right? And like and just kind of remind us that we can't do it on our own, and that we need to submit and give it to God. And I apologize that you had to go through those things. And if anybody out there is struggling with mental health or different things like that, I mean, please reach out to professionals. But you can reach out to me or anybody. That life is worth it, and just there's resources out there that will provide for what you need, and people love and care about you. And you're right. And I think one of the coolest things that you mentioned about that is something that I tell people all the time is that even if it's something super small and in your mind insignificant, you don't know how significant that is for someone else.
Yeah.
And I volunteer at my local church, and I one of the things I do is I sit by the door and I say, "Hey, welcome in." And at first I was kind of like, "Yeah, okay, like what is me saying hello to someone?" But the amount of people that have like come to tears by me just being like, "Hey, have a blessed Sunday. I'll see you next week." And some people will be like, "Hey, I don't have anybody to talk to. I'm lonely. I'm a widow or whatever." And but me just giving them a smile and just saying a few words, you don't know how impactful that is for that person, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the one of the key factors of that story that you mentioned, right? Is that that was an impactful story or impactful moment for that guy, and probably brought him a lot of joy for a long time. That's why it was
Yeah.
oftenly brought up.
Well, find ways to impact other people's lives by something as simple as when you go through the grocery line, ask them how you doing. Hey, how you doing today?
Yeah,
I'm blessed. How are you? My
yeah,
grandma, every time she answers the phone, it's, hey, I'm blessed. How are you?
yeah.
And I believe that. But something you can do too when someone asks you how you're doing. How you doing today? Good. Good is average, right? So good is not a word that I use. It's not in my vocabulary. If I say good, guys know that something's wrong, right? I'm doing great, man. How are you? Have a smile on your face and things like that. Like those things can go a long way. And
Mhm.
hearing the response can tell you a lot too. I'm doing all right. Why? Why are you doing all right? Like just all right, like
Mm,
it's 75 degrees out, man. What are you talking about? You're out here
for
playing
sure.
baseball, like, what happened? So those little things can definitely, help too. And us as males, like we're afraid to express.
Mm,
And that's why it's like, I think 3 out of 5, suicides, I think are males. And,
mm,
it's a significant stat. So people need to understand that. I don't know if that's the exact stat, so don't quote me on that. But I know
yeah.
it's a
No,
significant
it's up
number.
there. I don't know the exact number, but you're right. I've heard that as well.
Yeah, so it's just make sure that you're reaching out to people and understanding like who they are and get to know them. Like it's
Um, one of the things that we're gonna wrap up here in just a few minutes, but one thing that I've really been trying to work on this year is share this with the public is that really trying to practice gratitude. And I think when you were talking about that picture of flying open and how he just shifted his mindset a little bit, and by rewording that phrase, altered right that reverse psychology in that moment, where I have this saying that I'm reminding myself this year. I don't know if I came up with it. I think maybe I have, or I heard it somewhere, or maybe I did. But it's your current season is a past prayer, and it sounds simple, but if you really think about it, it's pretty deep. And the reason I like to say that is because even if it's the smallest little thing, you can find something in your current season of life. Like let's just use for example, right? I'm gonna, if you don't mind, but right, you're about to have a son, right? You're about to have a kid, and I'm sure you prayed about that for a while, and right, and you could be going through one of the hardest times of your life right now, but you could look at that one little thing, being like, which is not little, but that's a big thing, but
Yeah,
that one part of your life going, I'm about to have a son, and this is so amazing. And although these other areas of my life might be down, like this is so great, right? And
yeah,
I really try to remind a lot of people that look like you could be struggling in a lot of different areas, but let's say you're praying for you wanted, I don't know, the marshmallows to get restocked at Smith's, okay? I don't know, like whatever the case may be, right? You're praying for that, and
yeah,
boom, next time you go to Smith's and it's happening, like remind yourself like that was a past prayer, right? And be appreciative of that season. And so that's kind of something that I've really been working on personally is just remind yourself like that current season you're in. You can find one thing in your current season that you're in life that has been something in a past prayer. So that's something for you and people out there listening to kind of remind yourself whenever you're going through something that might be difficult or just life in general to try to lift your spirits and be more positive when you're looking at your life. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share. I really want to appreciate, let you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on here today. It's really amazing, and you inspire me as a coach, as a person, and just being bold and leading the troop of guys. So I know your visions as a head coach are awesome, and I know that there's going to be some great big things ahead over at Lake Erie. But are there any final words you want to wrap up for the people today?
no, man. I again just want to reiterate, like, if something's going on, make sure you reach out.
Mm,
Again, nothing is too crazy. Literally just start taking like the little things, because a lot of times when we make New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, they're so massive, right? Just
mm,
make it little things, make it something small, because again, we talked about at the beginning, like we want to win, right?
mm,
So if you do something small and you just do that, great. All right, let's say with cardio, you're talking about running on the treadmill. I haven't ran on the treadmill in forever. I could go out and I could run probably a 6.5 minute mile, maybe a
mm,
6 minute mile. I'd probably have a heart attack afterwards. But I know I could do it because for me, running is so mental. It's
mm,
like pushing past that limit, right?
mm,
So put yourself on the treadmill and put it on a certain speed and just run for 5 minutes.
mm.
Okay. Do that every single day for an entire week. And then next
Mm,
week, bump it up 15 seconds. Just 15 seconds. By the
mhm.
end of the year, right? You just keep building and building and building, right? You don't know how long you can go for it, right? And
Yeah,
just push yourself a little bit, but not too much to where it's like you can't do it. And then that will help maybe, you fulfill those dreams or those things that you want to make those goals that you have. And again, like the reason why they're on this podcast too, and why we're here is because of God. And
mm,
please reach out to others and find that faith and things that matter most to you. And don't be ashamed to say that you're a Christian.
if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna wrap this up with prayer.
Yep,
Just kind of a, thing that sprung onto me, and I will. Sorry for my bedhead, people.
my hair is horrible too, brother.
It's all good, but dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for allowing us to give this platform, whatever you decide to do with it, Lord. We just want to give it all to you and just let people know that, regardless of what they're struggling with, Lord, that you just will be there and give them the strength, courage, and peace to keep going. And Lord, I want to thank you for my friendship with Coach Hutch and the wonderful things that he does for his community over at Lake Erie, Lord. And I just pray that you just continue to guide him and his wife through this awesome season of their lives, and pray that that baby boy comes nice and healthy, and and is a lefty. No, but Lord, I just pray that you just continue to keep us all safe. I pray that you just have big things ahead for Lake Erie this year, baseball wise. And Lord, anybody that's listening that is wrestling with something or needs someone to talk to or whatever that case may be, Lord, I just pray that you just lift that burden off them. Let them know that they can come as they are, and that you can just remove any change that they have in their lives. That you'll just provide that peace. And it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You're
Thanks
the
for
man.
taking the time, Landon. We'll talk soon.
Thanks you, Dan, man.
All right. Peace.
See ya.